I was there. February 21st, 1965, Audubon Ballroom. I saw Brother Malcolm walk to that stage. I saw him smile at the crowd. And I saw the moment his eyes changed. Like he knew, like he'd always known. The shots came 3 seconds later. 21 bullets. I counted them in my nightmares for years. 400 people packed into wooden chairs on a Sunday afternoon in Washington Heights. Malcolm's wife, Betty, sat in the front row with their 4 daughters, the youngest barely 2 years old, the oldest just 6. They'd come to hear Daddy speak about building a better world for black children. Malcolm looked tired, more tired than I'd ever seen him, like a man who'd been carrying the weight of the world and was finally ready to set it down. He wore a simple dark suit, white shirt, narrow tie, nothing fancy, except for his eyes. Those eyes that could see through lies, through hatred, through the fear that kept most of us quiet. "Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters," he began, his voice filling the room without strain. The disturbance started in the back, 2 men arguing. "Get your hand out of my pocket," someone shouted. Malcolm raised his hands, trying to calm the situation. Hold it, brothers, let's be cool." That's when I saw him, a man in a dark coat moving toward the stage, his hand inside his jacket, moving like death itself. The first shot was a sawed-off shotgun, point-blank range to the chest. Before his body hit the wooden floor, 2 more men rushed the stage with pistols. 21 bullets in total, 15 seconds of sustained gunfire, then silence. Malcolm X was pronounced dead at 3:30 p.m., 39 years old, father of 4. And somewhere across Harlem, Bumpy Johnson was about to hear the news that would destroy him from the inside out. Because Bumpy's men weren't there that day. They weren't there because Malcolm had asked them not to be, had asked Bumpy for one favor that became the deadliest word ever spoken between friends. To understand why Malcolm X died without protection, you have to understand the friendship nobody talks about, the bond between Harlem's king and its prophet. They met at a funeral in 1958, a 12-year-old boy shot by police for allegedly stealing candy. Malcolm spoke about injustice, about the need for community self-defense. Bumpy sat in the back, listening. This preacher was different. He wasn't talking about escaping the neighborhood. He was talking about protecting it. After the service, Bumpy approached Malcolm. 2 sentences. That's all it took to begin a friendship that would last 7 years and end in tragedy. "You need better security," Bumpy said. Malcolm smiled. "Are you offering?" "I'm insisting." And just like that, the arrangement began. Bumpy's men at every Malcolm X event, never visible, never acknowledged, but always there, making sure that anyone who wanted to hurt Malcolm would have to go through them first. They met monthly, sometimes weekly, always privately, 2 men who understood power in different ways, learning from each other's perspective. "You've got something I don't," Bumpy told him once. "Hope." "And I've got something I need," Malcolm replied. "Respect. Fear keeps people quiet, but respect makes them listen." For 6 years, it worked. Malcolm grew more famous, more influential, more dangerous to those who profited from keeping black Americans powerless. And for 6 years, Bumpy's protection kept him alive. But by 1964, Malcolm was beginning to believe that some things were more important than staying alive. Some principles were worth dying for. Some messages were more powerful delivered by martyrs than by men with bodyguards. By 1964, Malcolm X had more enemies than the president. White supremacist groups, law enforcement agencies, the Nation of Islam, which had declared him an enemy after his break with Elijah Muhammad. February 14, 1965, Valentine's Day.
A firebomb crashed through Malcolm's front window. His wife and 4 daughters barely escaped. That night, Bumpy sent 6 armed men, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. "Nobody gets close," Bumpy told them. "Nobody." For 1 week, Malcolm had more security than most heads of state, and Malcolm hated every minute of it. Because every news camera that filmed his house also filmed Bumpy's men. Every newspaper article mentioned the gangster element providing security for the civil rights leader. Malcolm X preached black self-reliance, economic independence, but there he was, depending on a criminal organization for survival, living proof that his own philosophy wasn't practical. The contradiction was killing him. The man who told others to stand up was hiding behind a gangster's army. His enemies saw it too. Nation of Islam newspapers ran articles about Malcolm's criminal associations. Malcolm was trapped. Accept Bumpy's protection and validate every criticism. Reject it and probably die within a week. Something had to give. That's when Malcolm made the decision that would end his life and haunt Bumpy forever. He decided that authenticity was more important than survival, that his message mattered more than his life. The meeting happened on a Tuesday night in February 1965, 1 week before Malcolm would be murdered. In a back room at Wells Restaurant, the same place where Bumpy conducted much of his business. Malcolm arrived first, which wasn't like him. He seemed eager to get the conversation over with, like a man who'd made a hard decision and wanted to implement it before he lost his nerve. "Brother Bumpy," Malcolm said as Bumpy sat down, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to listen before you say no." Bumpy lit a cigarette and waited. "Pull your men back," Malcolm said. 4 words that contained years of friendship and the seeds of tragedy. Bumpy's hands went very still. "You know what's out there," Bumpy said quietly. "You know who's coming for you." "I know, but I can't preach self-reliance while hiding behind a gangster's army. No offense." "None taken, but you'll be dead within a week." Malcolm smiled with sad acceptance. "Then I'll die standing for something, not hiding from something." For Bumpy, this was uncharted territory. He'd never had to choose between honoring a friend's wishes and keeping that friend alive. "Malcolm, think about Betty. Think about your daughters. They need their father more than the movement needs another martyr. The movement needs authenticity. How can I tell Black Americans to stand up for themselves when I won't even stand up for myself?" Bumpy sat in silence for a long time. The cigarette burned down to his fingers. He was thinking about protecting a king who didn't want to be protected. "If I pull my men back, you're on your own," Bumpy said finally. "I understand." "Do you really understand what you're asking me to do? You're asking me to help you commit suicide." Malcolm's smile was gentle. "I'm asking you to help me live authentically, even if that means dying honestly." Bumpy Johnson sat in that restaurant booth and realized that all his power meant nothing. Some decisions could only be made with the heart, and his heart was breaking. "Okay," he said. One word, the word that would haunt him for the rest of his life. The withdrawal was gradual, from close protection to distant surveillance to nothing at all. February 18th, Malcolm spoke at the Audubon Ballroom. For the first time in years, Bumpy's men weren't positioned throughout the audience. Malcolm stood alone, protected by nothing but courage. February 19th, another speech in Brooklyn. Again, Malcolm stood alone. Several attendees reported seeing unfamiliar faces in the crowd, men who watched everything and remembered everyone. February 20th, Malcolm's last full day. He spent it at home with Betty and the girls, played with his children, shared dinner around the kitchen table like any other father. That night, Bumpy called. One last attempt to change Malcolm's mind. "Last chance," Bumpy said. "Let me send someone, just for tomorrow." "No, brother. If it's my time, it's my time. Allah knows best." "And if Allah's wrong?" Malcolm laughed softly. "Then I'll see you on the other side. Take care of Harlem for me." That was their last conversation. 15 hours later, Malcolm would be dead, and Bumpy would be living with the knowledge that one word could have changed everything. The Audubon Ballroom was smaller than most people imagine, a modest community space with wooden floors and folding chairs. Malcolm arrived at 2:45 p.m. He looked relaxed, at peace. Betty and the 4 girls sat in the front row. They'd come to hear Daddy speak about building a better world. At 3:05 p.m., Malcolm walked to the podium. "Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters," he began. 3 minutes into the speech, the disruption began. 2 men arguing in the back. Malcolm raised his hands. Hold it, brothers. Let's be cool." That's when Norman 3X Butler stood up, front row, left side. His hand emerged with a sawed-off shotgun. Malcolm saw the weapon, saw death approaching. Those close to the stage said his expression didn't change. No fear, just acceptance. The first blast caught Malcolm in the chest. Before he landed, 2 more men rushed forward with pistols. 21 bullets total. 15 seconds of sustained gunfire. Betty threw herself across Malcolm's body, screaming his name. Their daughters cried, not understanding why Daddy wouldn't get up. Malcolm was rushed to Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. He was pronounced dead at 3:30 p.m. 39 years old, father of 4, minister, revolutionary, martyr. The real cause was a conversation in a restaurant booth, a friend's request for authenticity, a word, okay, that had cost Malcolm X his life and cost Bumpy Johnson his peace of mind. Bumpy was playing chess when the phone rang, 3:47 p.m., 17 minutes after Malcolm was pronounced dead. Juno Williams was on the other end. "Mr. Johnson, Malcolm's gone, shot at the Audubon Ballroom, 21 bullets, died at the hospital." Bumpy listened for 10 seconds, then he hung up without saying a word. He sat there staring at the chessboard, at the pieces frozen in mid-strategy. For almost an hour, the most powerful man in Harlem sat in silence, processing that his best friend was dead and that he'd helped kill him. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "I killed him. I killed him by listening to him." Malcolm asked for authenticity. Bumpy had given him death. Malcolm chose principle over survival. Bumpy had chosen respect over responsibility. He never attended Malcolm's funeral, never visited the grave, but his behavior spoke louder than words. The man who'd built his reputation on calculated moves became reckless, impulsive, willing to take risks that served no purpose. 3 years later, Bumpy Johnson died of a heart attack in the same restaurant where he'd given Malcolm permission to remove his protection. Those who knew him best understood the truth. Bumpy Johnson died of grief, of guilt, of the weight of carrying a decision that had cost his best friend's life. 2 men, 2 worlds, 1 friendship that ended in tragedy and left scars that never healed. Malcolm X became a martyr. His autobiography became one of the most influential books in American history. His phrase, "by any means necessary," became a rallying cry for justice. Bumpy Johnson became a legend, the king of Harlem who'd ruled his neighborhood with intelligence and integrity for 30 years. But legends don't tell the whole story. They don't mention the chess games that went unfinished after February 1965, the way Bumpy's voice changed when anyone mentioned Malcolm's name, quieter, sadder, carrying the weight of decisions that couldn't be undone. Their final conversation illustrated the terrible complexity of loyalty. Sometimes loving someone means letting them make choices that destroy them. Sometimes the greatest act of friendship is the one that costs your friend everything. Perhaps the real tragedy wasn't just that Malcolm died, but that his death broke the man who might have prevented Harlem's fall. When Bumpy died in 1968, Frank Lucas was ready to claim the throne. The Harlem that Malcolm and Bumpy had tried to protect became the Harlem that Lucas poisoned with heroin. Today, there are schools named after Malcolm X and streets named after Bumpy Johnson, but none of that captures the simple human truth. Two friends who loved each other enough to make terrible choices in each other's names. The question that haunts their story is this: what would you have done? If your friend asked you to step back, knowing it might kill him, would you have honored that request, or would you have broken your promise to save his life? Malcolm X asked Bumpy Johnson for one favor. Bumpy granted it because he loved his friend. Malcolm died because he valued authenticity over survival. And the King of Harlem spent his remaining years learning that some promises are too sacred to break and too terrible to keep. If this story moved you, drop a comment. What would you have done in Bumpy's position? The streets are still watching. The choices still matter. The lessons still apply.